Shot is the name of Deputy Bernard Durkan. 30 seconds to put your question.
Well, okay, look, this question seeks to ascertain the extent to which the Minister remains satisfied that she has adequate resources at her disposal to carry out the work and the task entrusted to her, including all the referrals, the first instant response, and the placements and the follow-ups.
Thank you, Deputy. Brevity is your middle name.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. I am pleased to inform the Deputy that the gross amount of funding being made available to my department in 2019 will be €1.511 billion, which represents an increase of 9% over its allocation for 2018. And the allocation includes a current provision of €1.479 billion and a capital allocation of €32 million. Just over half of the total funding, or €786 million, is targeted at public services within Tuzla to protect our children and to provide for their welfare. A further $574 million will help us to build an accessible, affordable, high-quality childcare system. I have secured an additional €110 million for Tuzla since becoming Minister in 2016. With regard to the 2019 funding, I'm pleased to confirm that the agency will receive an additional €33 million. This will bring Tuzla's overall allocation to €786 million, which represents an increase of 4% over the 2018 allocation. €25 million of the overall increase will be used to meet increasing costs associated with existing services. But in addition to this, the extra funding I secured for Tuzla will be used to progress a number of key priorities, including the implementation of recommendations made by HIQA following its investigation into the management of child sexual abuse allegations. Together with experts from Tuzla, the Gardaí, children's rights campaigners and advocates, I have been examining how we can improve our support and help to children who have been sexually abused. This is another issue. Funding has now been secured to allow us to pilot a new approach which will ensure that children do not have to relive their abuse by having to retell their experience over and over again. A new one-house model will be piloted in 2019, and this represents a joint approach across 3 government departments and 3 statutory agencies.
Thank you very much, Deputy. 1 minute.
Thank you, Minister, for your reply. Can I further ask the extent to which you continue to be satisfied regarding the response rate, the time from the first notice of a child at risk or children at risk or families at risk and consequently children at risk? Do you remain satisfied that you have achieved an adequate response rate and that the follow-up in terms of placement and that it is both quick enough to ensure the protection of children and effective enough to ensure that the children are not replaced in similar circumstances?
That full question, Deputy, and I think what I can say is certainly is that I feel very assured that when a child comes to the attention of Tuzla in the context of what's going on within the family, that certainly in terms of the processes that are in place, is if there's any immediate risk to the child of their safety, that child is supported in a way that risk is removed. The second part of the question, though, I think has to do with maybe subsequent to that, in terms of then the processes whereby an analysis of what are the issues, what are the circumstances, what are the best ways of supporting the child in the context of that family, prioritizing the child in the context of the other children and families that Tuzla has to address in the different areas where they are. I do know and am aware that those are arenas where the processes and also the numbers of people working in Tuzla need to be improved, are being improved in the context of the various action plans and reform plans that they have in place in light of many of the difficulties that they've experienced even in the last year. So it's not as good as I think any of us would like to see it, but what I do know is that plans are in place for reform.
Thank you very much, Minister. Final comment, Deputy.
Thank you, Minister, again for your reply. Can I ask by way of final supplementary, whether in the course of the current year you are satisfied that adequate steps can be taken to, as it were, address the issues that have concerned you in the past and that continue to concern people who have an obvious interest in the welfare of children.
Thank you very much, Deputy. Final minute, Minister.
Well, I suppose there are two arenas, you know, in terms of various, both a HIQA investigation and a statutory HIQA investigation in relation to, say, for example, obviously the retrospective abuse case and allegations in light of the McCabe issue. The Disclosures Tribunal reported on that. I also had a statutory investigation by HIQA that reported on that, and in both cases, certainly the statutory investigation, we put in place an action plan, or the board did. I've met the board. They are working through that, and in relation to the Disclosures Tribunal and what came out of that, again, I met the board recently. We identified a number of areas that need to ensure that they are addressed, and in both of those contexts, I would feel confident that the plans are in place, the organization is attentive to the real deep concerns that are there and what needs to be done in order to change.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your cooperation. Thank you, Deputy.